Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back to Element 5 Industrial Hygiene and Occupational Health. Now, we all know that we were discussing statutory provision. Yes, so today we will be discussing about statutory provision again, and we will be taking part 2 of statutory provisions where we left last time. We'll have a quick review of what we did, what we covered in the last video, and then we'll be further moving to in detail that, and then we will be concluding this particular element. So let us see what was there. So industrial hygiene and occupational health, we had 5 different parts that we divided the section, this particular element into. That was industrial hygiene, occupational health, and overview. Then it was the exposure limits, toxicology, then workplace monitoring, and finally it was statutory provisions. Now in statutory provisions, last time what we understood was as per Factories Act, section 12, section 14, so about ventilation, about dust, about artificial humidity, about lightning, so how much illumination should be there in an area, all that we discussed. Later we also discussed some of the specific requirement laid by state governments, and in India it has been nationally accepted. So that was the maximum illumination level based on work, that is area and workroom. Then we also discussed about nature of work, its examples, and then what was the maximum illumination available there. That was it, Schedule B. So Schedule A and Schedule B concluded on the illumination part, that how much lighting is required, at what level the lighting is required. So all that we covered. Later we also moved forward to section 37, what all explosive, explosive and inflammable dust. We discussed precaution regarding to use of portable electrical lightings. So all that we discussed. And we concluded with a list of a lot of things that said that okay, chapter 3 of health. So in Factories Act, each chapter is defining certain aspects of safety. Now when it comes to industrial safety aspects and when it comes to Factories Act, it is a much in-depth, detailed criteria that are being defined. So, but when such big book is there, so we must know where to look for the right kind of solution that are available. So I've just listed down the list of chapters and what chapter represents what. So when you are referring to the Factories Act, then chapter 3 is about health, chapter section 11 is about cleanliness, and so on. So when you look at different sections, section 12, disposal of waste and effluent, section 13, ventilation and temperature, section 14, dust and fumes, section 15 about artificial humidification, section 16 overcrowding, section 17 about lightening, then 18 about drinking water, 19 about latrine and urinals, and 20 about spit tools. Now what are spit tools? See, imagine that Factories Act, they have even kept in mind that where to spit. So all that is also being taken care. So there are specifications or everything available in the Factories Act. Now let us start with today's session, and that will be on chapter 4, that is provision related to hazardous processes. Now 41C specify responsibility of the occupier in relation to hazardous process. Every occupier factory involving, you have to understand why we have started explaining the occupier front, because naturally somebody has to be responsible. So from the responsibility allocation, we'll be moving forward. So every occupier of the factory involving any hazardous process shall first maintain accurate and up-to-date health records, or as the case may be, medical records of workers in the factory who are exposed to any chemical, toxic, or any other harmful substance which are manufactured, stored, handled, or transported, and such records shall be accessible to workers subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. So section 41C A defines this. Now what is point B there? Appoint persons who possesses qualification and experience in handling hazardous substances and are competent to supervise such handling within the factory and to provide at the workplace all necessary facilities for protecting workers in the manner prescribed, provided that were any questions arises as to the qualification and experience of a person so appointed, the decision of the chief inspector shall be final. Now point number C. So here you can see that point number A defines that you must give training or you must keep health records. Point number B says you have to appoint a safety guy who actually understands all this and can provide the information to the people and can supervise all these activities and can keep care on well if any danger comes. Now the final decision, what happens is when you keep all these records and you present these records to the chief inspector, so the whole authority remains with him. If the inspector says that he is not even competent, why have you kept it? Why are you just doing time pass? So that way it is taken. Now coming to providing C is provide for medical examination to every worker. Now medical examination of every worker includes A, before such worker is assigned to a job involving the handling of or working with a hazardous substance, and while continuing in such job and after he has ceased to work in such job at intervals not exceeding 12 months in such manner as may be prescribed. So what you have to do? You have to keep annual health checkup record you have to maintain. So before such worker is assigned a job, and health record of individuals, like before if a person joins, so immediately the health examination should be there, because you have to have a reference that when this person joined he was like this, now when he has joined this is the condition. So if there is an exposure, then you can at least tally that before and after is whatever is the effect, correct? It should not be there. Now coming to 41E, that is emergency standards. So 41E first, where it says where the central government is satisfied that no standard of safety have been prescribed in respect of hazardous process of class of hazardous processes, or where the standards so prescribed are inadequate, it may direct the Director General of Factory Advisory Service and Labour Institute DG Fastly or any institute specialized in matters related to standards of safety in hazardous process to lay down emergency standards for enforcement of suitable standard in respect of such hazardous process. Second point is the emergency standard laid under subsection shall, until they are incorporated in the rules made under this, be enforced and have the same effect as if they had been incorporated in the rule made under this act. Coming to 41F, and that is permissible limits of exposure of chemical and toxic substances. So what does it say? The standard says the maximum permissible threshold limits of exposure of chemical and toxic substances in manufacturing process, whether hazardous or otherwise, in any factory shall be of the value indicated in Schedule 2. Second, schedule. Now what does and who governs it? The central government may at any time, for the purpose of giving effect to any scientific proof obtained from specialized institutions or experts in the field by notification of gadget, make suitable changes in the said schedule. So you have to refer to second schedule when it comes to understanding permissible threshold limits of exposure of chemicals. Now 41G says workers' participation in safety management. So what does it say? It says first, the occupier shall in every factory where hazardous process takes place or where hazardous substances are used or handled set up a safety committee consisting of equal number of representative of workers and management to provide cooperation between the workers and management in maintaining proper safety and health at work and to review periodically the measures taken in that behalf, provided that the state government may by order in writing and for reasons to be recorded exempt the occupier of any factory or class of factory for setting up such committee. So there should be a safety committee. Now, the second point in there is the composition of safety committee, the tenure of the office of its member and their rights and duties shall be such as may be prescribed. Correct. Then coming to 41H. So 41G is all about workers' participation. So when it comes to worker participation, what should be there? People should be part of decision making. So people should be part of committee. So how decision making process moves forward? So there should be a safety committee. They should have minutes of meeting. That will be presented to the management that this is what the committee has decided and these were the problems that have been discussed. Then moving on to 41H, and that is right of workers to warn about imminent danger. So it is a right of every worker that they should be aware of imminent danger. So whenever any accident happened, and if they were not aware that okay, this could have happened here, so it is bad, and it is the right of the worker to know that there stands a imminent danger. So whether the work employment, so here the point starts as when first is where the worker employed in any factory engaged in hazardous processes have reasonable apprehension that there is a likelihood of imminent danger to their lives or health due to any accident, they may bring the same to the notice of the occupier, agent, manager, or any other person who is in charge of the factory or the process concerned directly or through any representative in the safety committee, and simultaneously bring the same to the notice of the inspector as well. Now, second point is it shall be the duty of such occupier, agent, manager, or the person in charge of the factory to possess or process to take immediate remedial action if he is satisfied about the existence of such imminent danger and send a report forthwith the action taken to the nearest inspector. Now, if the occupier agent, third point is if the occupier agent manager or a person in charge refers to subsection 2 in is not satisfied about the existence of any imminent danger or apprehended by the worker, he shall nevertheless refer the matter forthwith the nearest inspector whose decision on the question of the existence of such imminent danger shall be final. So here you have to understand that what are the rights of factory inspector. So if you are not able to solve, so if you are not able to find a person, that is why consultants are there. That is why different people are there related to process who can guide you. So if you are not aware of some hazard and if you think that okay, I can only do this much, but there should be more to it, so then you can seek advice of the person who has developed the process, or he should be made aware, the occupier should be made aware. If you are not able to take the decision, then with factory inspector you can discuss, and then whatever decision the factory inspector passes, so that comes under the right of a factory inspector, and whatever he says will be final. Now coming to section 45, that says first aid appliances. So first aid box with prescribed contents should be there. Nothing else to be kept in first aid box. First aid box in charge or responsible person trained in first aid should be there. If more than 500 worker, provision of ambulance room should also be there. So when there are more than 500 worker in a single premises, there should be provision of an ambulance as well. Now the first schedule and section 2CB says, rather defines list of industries involving hazardous processes. So if you just refer this schedule or this section, you will have a clear idea that what all is included and why it is there. Why it is important to know this? Because when it comes to understanding that what does this section tells us all about, so it primarily tells about 29 processes that are clearly defined as hazardous process. So there is a list of industries involved and there is list of hazardous processes involved. This is under section 2CB. You can directly refer it. It gives the entire list and it's about 29 processes. So you can go through and you can visit it. The second part is the second schedule. This is in first schedule. Now the second schedule says in section 41F, permissible level of certain chemical substances in work environment. You have to understand the time is short, so I cannot discuss each chemical. But yes, in second schedule, section 41F, if you will search, you will get permissible level of certain chemical substances in work environment. That you have to refer so that you will also know what are the permissible level. You can search the chemical name and you can get the information as well. So what is given in there? There are 116 chemical, 4 type of dust, silica, asbestos, cement, coal dust. So all this is there and it is clearly defined what are the levels. The second schedule in section 41F, time weight average concentration, that is TWA for 8 hours is also given. Then short term exposure limits of 15 minutes are also given. Then comes to the third schedule. Now in third schedule, in from section 89 to 90, list of notifiable disease, that is 29 diseases given there. So what are the disease for which you have to notify? Those diseases are given in this particular section. Now coming to one of the state rules which provides most of the information, like most likely all the informations are provided there and it is in written so that there is a written proof to it as well. So the Maharashtra Factory Rules 1963, rule number 66 gives information about excessive weights. So maximum weight of material, article, tool or appliances in kilogram, lift, put down, carry or move, medical examination, before and after employment. So what are excessive weight? It defines adult male can lift maximum 55 kg of weight. Adult female can lift not more than 30 kg of weight. Young person between 15 to 16 years of age can lift 30 kg. Young person or female from 15 to 16 years can lift only 20 kg. Young person male from 14 to 15 years can lift 16 kg and young person female 14 to 15 years can lift only 14 kg of it. So why this is defined? This is clearly defined in the Maharashtra factory rules. These are the mainly only the adult weights are considered. Now for kids 15 to 16 years and 14 to 15 years, 15 years is also given. Why? Because there was a need to explain at these levels also. So Factories Act, Maharashtra Factories Act defined it at these levels that this much is the only weight that a person can lift. So what you need to remember, adult male 55 kg and adult female 30 kg. Rule number 66 talks about excessive weight. Coming to rule number 73L, that is on the health and safety policy. So there should be a safety policy in every company based on which that forms the guidelines or the parameter where and how you have to establish the entire safety culture and safety management system. Then comes rule 73M, and that says about material safety data sheet. Now when we talk of material safety data sheet, so what all information is required to be displayed? As you can say that there is a positive identification about each chemical. So what should be there? Identify first what is the chemical, so that chemical name should be there. The second point that should be displayed under positive ID is route of entry, how this can be hazardous to your health. So route of entry of this particular chemical should be known. Then physical and chemical hazard, acute and chronic, how it affects, physical and chemical hazard, how it affects, that should be written. Permissible limit of exposure should also be written. First aid measures of this any particular chemical should be known and written, and details of manufacture should also be there. Now these are the things that forms a positive ID. Now this is the only thing that you need to keep in the store along with a copy of MSDS. So you cannot refer the entire MSDS, but these highlighted points should always be there so that the information is available. If anything goes wrong, it is easily accessible and it is easily you can take the action very immediately. Now coming to rule number 73 5, that is medical examination of worker. So for whom it is there? Workers employed in hazardous process. Periodically, once before employment, once in a period of 6 months. Clearly written under rule 73(5). How to record? Form 6, certificate of fitness before employment. Form 7, health register. Form 23, special certificate of fitness. Who will do it? Factory medical officer will do it. Correct? So this defines rule 73(5). Then comes to rule 73W, that is on occupational health center. So qualification of a factory medical officer should be MBBS degree, diploma in industrial health or equivalent PG certificate course. This is the qualification requirement. Now coming to he should have diploma in two exempted if sufficient expertise subject to satisfaction of DG Fastly is there. Now syllabus and organization approved by the state government of DG Fastly, complete particular FMO factory medical officer intimated to inspector giving having jurisdictions. So the duty of a factory medical officer is medical examination of worker, first aid care and emergency treatment, notification of occupational disease, immunization service, medical records and referral services. So all that should be there. Then comes infrastructure. So when it comes to infrastructure, what is the requirement? So the requirement is required if worker involved in hazardous process is more than 50 workers, service and facility as per scale and schedules are required. So what now? Coming to what are the provisions. So when we talk of different provisions, let us start quickly on number of workers. So up to 50 workers, service of factory medical officer is relationship based, minimum 5% trained in first aid in each shift. So there is a big question that how many minimum person should be there. So minimum 5% trained in first aid in each shift. If there are 50 workers, so 5 people in every shift, that is 10% of the occupancy in every shift. So first shift 5%, second shift 5%, third shift 5%. So if you want to know how many workers are there, so you just have to keep a record of how many workers are there. 10%, that much in every shift should be available. If your shifts are plus minus, so accordingly you can keep. Now up to 51 to 200 workers, service of FMO, that is factory medical officer, is part-time basis. Visit at least twice a week. One qualified trained dresser cum compounder in each shift, and a fully equipped first aid box in each department. This is required if your worker strength is from 51 to 200. Now above 200 workers, service of one full-time factory medical officer up to 500 worker, and one more factory medical officer every 100 worker or part thereof, one nurse, one dresser cum compounder, and one sweeper cum ward boy in every shift. And OHC fully equipped to manage medical emergencies should be available if your worker strength is more than 200. So this is what is prescribed in the tabular chart that is given under the section. When it comes to factory medical officer, we have discussed in detail that rule 73W occupational health center, this is what is specified. Now coming to rule 73X, that is ambulance and van. So availability of ambulance van is more than 200 worker. If less than 200 worker, suitable arrangement should be there, managed by driver cum medical and helper trained in first aid, maintained in good condition, and equipment with articles as specified under sub rule 2 should be there. Now coming to 73Y, that is decontamination facilities. So primarily dressing showers and eye washing facilities should be there. Rule number 73Z, that means making health records available to workers and specified authorities, that is written there. Now coming to rule number 76, that is first aid appliances. So sufficient number of first aid boxes, disinfect, density of marked first aid should be there. Equipment with articles specified in rule depending on the number of workers. Only first aid material to be kept there. Protection from dust and moisture should be given. In charge of the person trained in first aid should be there and always readily available. Rule number 77 states notice regarding the first aid. So notice contaminating, containing the names of person should be there with the first aid box. Trained first aiders and in charge of first aid box and location should be marked. Name of the nearest hospital and telephone numbers to be given there. Now rule 78 states ambulance room. For more than 500 worker, ambulance room or separate from the factory should be there. Now ambulance room in charge of is a qualified medical practitioner. At least one qualified nurse should be there. Display of emergency number should be there, and facility specified this facility is specified under sub rule 3. Now rule number 114, that is dangerous operation. So schedule 1 to 16 says relevant occupational health measures pertaining to the operation specified in the schedule should be there. So this concludes our all technical rule number and statutory provisions that are required based on different standards. I hope you have liked the video, so keep liking and sharing, and do not forget to hit the bell icon and subscribe button for our motivation. We'll be keep sharing more videos. Thank you very much, friends.